Good morning, everyone. It's Dan Campbell with Texas Open Door Realty. Welcome to another edition of the Happy Homeowner. I have David Tandy with me again today. We're doing the second part of a series on cybersecurity and related subjects. In our last episode, we talked about, David shared about how to figure out if your personal identity has been compromised or not, and some websites you could go to help decipher that, and then some things that we can do related to that. So I'll encourage you, if you missed that, go back and look it up on YouTube and take a look. It's got some great information. And so today we're going to pick up a subject that is fascinating to me, but also very scary. When I first heard about it, I thought it was a joke the first time I heard about it happening, but it's called ransomware. And so David, tell us what ransomware is. And just educate us a little bit.
Yeah, that's a very scary change in how things have evolved with the bad guys, with the criminals. It's just so hard to realize that there's so many people out there that are willing to do us harm and do things like attack us with something called ransomware. Ransomware is what's called malware, a bad piece of software, will get infected into your system, and it will then go through and find all of your data. And this might be a process over a matter of days that it happens, and it's designed to where it find all your data, go through your hard drive and encrypt all of the data. And then your first notice of it is a screen that pops up that says, oops, your data has been encrypted. You've been the victim of ransomware, and if you want to be able to get your information back, you've got to pay them a ransom. That's where the term ransomware comes from. And you literally have this very ugly-looking screen that's on your computer, and that's all you can get to. And it gives you usually a countdown that says, if you don't pay us a certain amount of money within 24 hours, the ransom goes up.
Oh, wow.
And if you miss that deadline, the ransom goes up again. So pretty soon you're really in a quandary about, you figure out you really can't get around it, and you have to pay even more money. The solution for it is you completely wipe your computer to get rid of the virus and get rid of the ransomware, get rid of all your data and all your applications and all your programs, all your operating software, and you reload it from backups. The challenge with that is that ransomware has gotten smarter, so it might take weeks before it lets you know it's infected your computers, and it's now infected your backups.
Oh, wow.
So now you first thing you have to do when you get hit by ransomware, the first thing everyone tries to do is go figure out, are my backups good, and can I restore from that? The challenge with that is, if you go to do that, it can take a while to restore everything. So if you're a business and you're on 50 servers and you decide to restore to all 50 servers, that might take a couple of weeks, even if everything works right. But for you to get everything restored, you gotta reload everything. So reload it in a certain order, and you may have to rely on incrementals plus a full backup and a combination of things. So it's a real quandary, and you saw recently in Texas, 22 different governmental jurisdictions, governmental agencies, all at once went down with ransomware.
Right, I heard that.
Well, that was another good indication. They infected all 22. They took their time. They made sure, the bad guys made sure everything had properly done its job, and then they pulled the trigger all at once on all 22.
Wow.
So that was a good example of how that kind of all works of a ransomware attack. That's a standard way of doing it. And so it's out there, and it's something to be aware of, very definitely.
I'm curious, did the municipalities that were affected by that, did they end up paying to get their...
Well, at first, the news accounts never would say whether they were paying for it or if they were going to be able to rely on backups. The best information that I saw, I kind of stopped following it, but I followed it long enough to know that some of them were able to restore from backups. Very suspicious. I would suspect that some had to pay the ransom just because they go to their backups, and it's just not uncommon to find out that, oops, we don't even have good backups.
Oh.
Number one. Or two, we do have a full backup, but it's probably infected also. So that's would be my guess, is it was some paid it and some did not. the advice is to avoid paying it if at all possible, because it just encourages it. The more we all pay ransomware, it's even there's even some interesting articles published that you can buy cyber insurance that will protect you from even ransomware.
Okay.
What the cyber insurance company will do is say their job is to get you back up and running. So their tendency is to say, pay the ransom. That'll probably be way cheaper than if we have to go fix your business because you're completely lose all your data. Pay the cost of losing the data. So unfortunately, that tendency from a cyber insurance, if you happen to have good cyber insurance and it actually does cover ransomware, they're going to tell you go pay the ransom.
Okay.
Very likely. And FBI says that's the last thing we need. We need everyone to stop paying the ransoms. We need to get better at backups, and we need to avoid getting infected, and we need to put a stop to this. That's what they're saying.
So where does a business get cyber insurance? Who sells it?
There are just insurance brokers out there that sell it. In any industry. In my industry, there's 2 or 3 really good agencies that sell it. In the real estate industry, you really ought to check with your trade associations and with leaders in the industry, because there will be certain insurance agents that are specialists in it, and that's what you need to do, because there's a lot of unique things that you need to check on. Cyber insurance is really theft insurance, and theft insurance and fraud insurance kind of combined, but it also needs to have a social engineering component to it, because the way we get infected with malware that causes either a data breach or it causes a ransomware is that we click on something that we shouldn't click on, or we open an attachment. So the way to prevent ransomware is to not click on links that we don't know about for sure. And that's really hard. Human nature is just, you get an email, it looks like something you're interested in, and you start clicking. And that is what the bad guys are completely taking advantage of. That's how Equifax had Equifax breach. Actually, was something else. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But that's how a lot of the attacks happen. In fact, the majority of them is that an email called a phishing email. That's where you hear that term. They're phishing you. They're trying to trick you. You get an email that looks really legitimate, and you click on it, and the second you click on it, you're downloading that malware. Or it's got an attachment, and the second you click on the attachment, you download the malware. And again, you may not know that for maybe months. Data breaches are common if they're going to attack you. That's what I was going to say about the Equifax breach. They were infected for a couple of months before they ever figured out that they'd been infected, while the bad guys are downloading all of their data. So you don't even necessarily know it, and you may not ever know it. That's pretty typical. So to avoid ransomware, you want to not click on things. That's the most important thing to do, is to learn to ignore emails that you don't trust and you don't know. If it's important, they'll email you again.
Right.
If you need to call someone, if it's something you really don't understand, but you know how to verify it, call them and say, is this really an email from you? That sounds crazy to do that in this world of very fast moving things, but that literally is the advice. Do whatever it takes to teach yourself not to click on bad emails. Businesses do something that's called training your associates by sending simulated phishing emails. Okay. I think last time we talked about a company that's called a KnowBe4 that has got things that were applicable to last time. Well, that's what they also do. I think it was trying to find out if you've been compromised. You could go to that website and they would. Right. Well, the other thing that they do is they have a program that you can set up, and it will constantly every month send all your employees fake phishing emails. Wow. Emails that look like they are really legitimate, but they're really tricking emails. They're designed to simulate what are the phishing emails. And if anyone clicks on it, it tracks that, and it gives you back the manager a report on it. And my company has done that for a long time now.
Wow. So like when I get these phishing emails, and I probably get, I would say 5 or 6 a week that look like they might be something that would be applicable. It's amazing how they will use terms that cause me to think, wow, is that real or not? Now, if I just open the email, but I don't open any attachments, is that going to download
To my
something?
knowledge, and I am not an IT expert, but to my knowledge, opening the email usually does not get you infected.
Okay.
But sure as I say that, I know I'm going to see an article,
Right.
a legitimate article the next day that says, oh no, you can also get infected that way. But normally it's clicking on a link and clicking on an attachment that is your trouble. So I don't necessarily believe that that normally is a risk, just opening up the email. So
Okay. So I know for me personally, what this has done is caused me to be, sadly, suspicious about every single inquiry I get.
Me too.
Even this week, I got a letter like this from TextTag, and it said urgent. Contact us by December 1st, blah blah blah, and here was the phone number. And my wife and I were talking about this, and I said, don't call that phone number, and for sure, don't give them any personal information.
Yeah.
I said, go online and find out what TextTag's phone number is, and see if this is a legitimate phone number, and then call them, because it reminded me so much of a phishing expedition that we see in emails.
And that's what we ask you to do on phishing emails. If you see it, don't call any phone numbers on there. They could all be fake and have a criminal answering it. Wire fraud, that's exactly what happens. It's call me right now to discuss sending your buyer's funds to us by this date, so you don't hold up closing. It gives you a phone number or an email, and all those are fake. There's bad guys at the end of them. So you have to go back to an original source that you know is legitimate to use for contacting by email or contacting by phone. In our case, it's a title company. Call back a legitimate phone number you've been given previously. In that case, go to the internet and look up what you hopefully is a legitimate website. Most likely it's going to appear in the Google rankings. As if it's high in that ranking, it's probably going to be legitimate.
Okay,
just because of the way their algorithms work.
Okay.
Although you should probably even be careful about that too.
Yeah.
So, but
right.
One of the things not to do on a letter or an email is to look for red flags, like the grammar wasn't quite right, because they're getting better. And as soon as you memorize that they always use lowercase I, or they always use a weird salutation, or they always they get something else wrong, and you don't find those, you get comfortable and think that's okay. Well, that's not true. They're learning. They're hiring people who are very proficient in English. And they didn't do that before. Now they're doing that. So you can't rely on red flags. I always caution people, don't be looking for red flags. You need to learn to be just generally suspicious, and if it's not a transaction and not an email you were expecting, and say the things that you know made sense. That's what we have to do in our business, and even then you need to be suspicious. But those ones we tend to trust and rely on. If there's anything out of line and it's not something we expected, you just instantly be suspicious of it.
Okay.
Because all of this leads back to, you could click on it. That's how they get there. You could click on it and it could download malware. So that's the biggest cause of ransomware. The other cause for it that you need to watch for, that your viewers need to be thinking about, is failure to load the most current security patches.
Okay.
So Microsoft will be constantly releasing security patches. You see that on your smartphones. You'll see iPhone or Android say, oh, there's an urgent software patch you need to download because we figured out our software's got another hole in it.
Okay.
And if you don't download this, your phone is now vulnerable. The same way with your computer. Windows software, Microsoft application, Adobe, any software you have on there, they will periodically, the bad guys and the good guys will find that there is a breach, a security hole they didn't know about. They create a patch, they publish it, and if you don't download that, well, now the bad guys know about that patch too because it gets publicized.
Sure.
That is what happened to Equifax.
Oh.
They published a piece of software. It was the software that runs their websites, had a security hole in it. They published that there was a hole, and here's the patch. They didn't download the patch for about a month, which actually makes sense. You want to test patches before you load them.
Sure.
So in their mind, they were thinking, oh, we're doing a normal process of checking and testing everything. But in that period of time, the bad guys immediately raced out there and started trying to find anybody that had that hole, and they found Equifax.
Oh my gosh.
And they infected 50 servers because of that.
Wow.
The whole Equifax breach was that one piece of software that wasn't downloaded. So, lesson is, even you, if you got it as a laptop, you need to download the most current security patches for all your software. And that's hard to learn how to do, but failure to do it leaves you open to being infected by something that would cause ransomware. So that's the two causes that anybody can start working with and trying to fix.
So if I'm watching this today, listening to this, what should I do to try and figure out if my computer has been affected in the background with ransomware? They haven't launched it yet.
I don't know.
What can I do? Is there anything I can do?
Yeah, that one's not easy. Most likely, if it's infected, they're not going to wait around for just an individual user. The wait process is more for someone that has got 50 servers, because it takes time to infect all those.
Got it.
But I don't know what you could do to go pick up a computer. Go to a computer expert. That would take a computer expert to go figure out you're in the process of being infected. More likely it is go back and figure out, do you currently have a really good process for backing up? You need multiple versions. You need one version that's disconnected and it stays disconnected. So you do a full backup, you disconnect that from your system, and so they can't reach it. And so it's a whole series process, which is too complicated to get into right now, and probably more technical than I want to get into. But it's something that you would go work with someone to make sure. And it doesn't matter if you're in business and you just got one computer or you've got a whole group of employees. Backups have always been critical. They've kind of gotten less critical whenever computers got more reliable. Hard drives didn't crash as much, and I think we all got lazy about that.
Sure.
Because your hard drive never did crash, you didn't need your backup. Well, now we're back to you really need to do backups because of protecting. It's the protection against ransomware. Otherwise, you're going to write a check.
So, but it's not.
Or give up your data.
What I heard you say is it's not enough just to do backups. We need to talk to a computer professional who can tell us how to do it effectively, or else our backups will end up being infected with these viruses.
Yeah, if you have 5 separate hard drives, or 5 thumb drives, or 5 tape drives, and you're just rotating through those, once a week, which is what I grew up doing. Very likely all 5 of those will be infected by the time you wind up learning that you're just simply backing up the virus. You're backing up the malware too.
Okay.
And it's designed that once it goes to the backup device, it encrypts all that data too, or corrupts it. So it's you'll see when you read stories about ransomware, you will hear, and you read further down in there, you'll definitely see that. We went to our backup and it was corrupted or encrypted also.
Wow.
That's not uncommon, just because they haven't stepped up to the next level of how you do backups.
Okay.
And I would actually have to. I rely on a computer expert for that. I don't get into what are all the different steps that you have to do to make sure that you have a bulletproof backup.
Okay. So what about training sessions for our employees or training sessions for ourselves? Do you have any recommendations on that? Obviously, it sounds like we need more training on this and updated training constantly.
Yeah, well, this is actually Cyber Awareness Month. October is, and so there's actually been some good articles out there of what you need to do in training. I mentioned Know Before. That's just one, and those are training you by having simulated attacks. That's one way of doing training. Another way is to sit down and do something like this. Just make everyone really aware of. We're doing the simulated training, but here's what that means. We're dependent on everyone here to not be clicking on things they shouldn't be clicking on. That's why we're going to be testing you. This is a work environment. This is not this is not an environment where you are allowed to put us at risk. And that's a conversation you have with your employees. That's a conversation my company has with me and all of my employees. Is that you need to treat it like it's a business, and you do not do things that expose us to risk. So there's a lot of just general education of security training. We do that with wire fraud, within our company. We have ongoing training components where we sit down and say, here's what we're seeing. It's just a general conversation. You should do that about everything that's involved with cybersecurity and things that are unique to your industry. In our case, wire fraud is very unique to our industry, so we specifically talk about that. And then talk about, even ransomware. Here, one click could expose our entire company to being locked down.
Wow.
Even if you have a good backup, you might be down for a week. Just
Right.
if everything works perfect, you might be down for a week. And
Right.
you will see that with those 22 jurisdictions. Some of them got back up and running, but they were down for a week or 2 weeks. And it took them to figure out, do I dare even trust my backup?
Yeah,
Do I
sure.
go down that road?
Yeah.
And do I get that all up and running? And it turned out none of it worked, and now my ransom has tripled and quadrupled. So those are educational processes that we actually should go through with our employees and have those conversations. It's just an awareness training.
Okay. But it sounds like prevention is the big issue that we should focus on
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Yeah, there are other things to do. There are software applications out there that do things like monitor emails, so they're watching all the emails that go through there. There are software programs that monitor anything you click on, and it will actually go over I love the phrase, they'll go over and it'll detonate the URL that you clicked on to see if it's safe and test that. And those programs used to be so expensive that only big corporations could afford them. They have really come down in price. And that is pretty much definitely beyond the scope of this conversation, but just a sentence or two on it. Those are systems that are now available to even down to a very small business. They're usually through what's called a managed security service. So you don't hire people and download that software. You simply subscribe to a service.
Okay.
Connect your website to it, connect your internet provider, connect your email to it, and they'll provide all of that service for you. And those have become very legitimate now. It's not too hard to find that kind of service. And that would go the next step further. If you're really getting serious about prevention, then it gets into a very proactive monitoring process.
Do you have any company names that you can throw out for that?
Yeah, I'll send you some links. You can put them on the
Okay.
broadcast. I'll
All
send
right.
you a couple of
Okay.
links that I know about. But the ones I know are very specific to our industry,
Okay.
to some degree, to the title insurance industry. And I haven't researched beyond that, so I can
Okay,
give you
sure.
a couple of those. But again, I think it's sit down with an IT professional of some kind and research that and figure out what is the best fit for you. But there's more and more of them coming out, and they have gotten less and less and less. Very small companies are now loading everything into the cloud now.
Okay.
A cloud provider
Sure.
like Amazon Web Services is one of the premier ones, and they will do everything for you. They will monitor everything, and many companies have done that. The CIA does that. The CIA has actually loaded some of its data on Amazon Web Services.
Ooh, that's scary.
Isn't that wild? But part of it is because they have become experts at staying current on all of the security issues. So
Man.
yeah, it is scary.
I'm telling you. Wow, that takes us down a whole other path, doesn't
Yeah.
it? All right. Well, listen, we're out of time today, but this has been awesome, David. I appreciate you so much. And Texas National Title for hosting this. And
Certainly.
Your locations are all over now. What cities are you in now?
Well,
besides
we're
Austin?
mainly in Austin operation. We have 9 locations here. We also are located in Corpus Christi, but we service all of Texas.
Okay.
So we're a Texas-based, Texas-focused title company. We're part of an independent agent that is nationwide. Mm-hmm. So we actually cover the whole nation through our parent company, but Texas National Title itself is focused on Texas and primarily focused on Austin.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Well, this has been another edition of The Happy Homeowner, and I'm Dan Campbell with Texas Open Door Realty, and we'll put these links on for future downloads for you. Thanks for tuning in.